Kia ora koutou, listeners, welcome back. So today I am going to talk to a chap, Huw Taylor, who is developing a business that's very new, but I wanted to talk to him because he is operating a niche within a niche. He is the ultimate foodie who is focusing on beef at the moment, and I'm wanting to learn just where he's focusing. There's a lot I don't know about what he's doing exactly, but I'm intrigued, especially after the conversation with Dr. Abby Thompson. I'm really interested in the complete opposite in some ways of Abby, but reaching into the world of somebody who is a passionate foodie who is focusing on the domestic market and what is there to learn for us in developing this niche within a niche. So come with me on an exploration into Huw's world. Hope you enjoy it. You ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, let's go. Welcome back, everybody. I am talking this morning to Huw Taylor. Good morning, Huw.
Morning, Harv. Nice to be here, mate.
And Huw, as you can tell, speaks a bit funny. Where's the accent from, Huw?
The accent now, I have no idea. I'm born in the Welsh borders. Got sent off to a posh British school where they knocked whatever accent then was out of me. But then, yeah, been all over the UK and then ended up in New Zealand and accent now. All the Kiwis know I'm not a Kiwi and all the Brits think I speak funny. So I have no idea.
So you've got one of those mongrel...
I'm a mongrel. True mongrel. Half Welsh, half English. Yeah, mongrel through.
Nobody loves you.
Oh, I hope there's one or two. Yeah. They're the victims. Yeah.
So Huw, you describe yourself as a what?
I describe myself as a foodie first and foremost in terms of where I'm at now in terms of the business that we've created. But this goes right back to farming. It's always been farming. Grew up in the Welsh borders, as I mentioned, sort of rolling hills surrounded by Hereford cattle. My father was a beef specialist. We had a property at home. We had a small Hereford stud. We bred Suffolk sheep at various points. And then for most of my career, both in the UK and here, I've worked in the sector, probably peripherally. I haven't been hands-on, but in a variety of sales roles, marketing roles with a variety of companies in the media back in the UK for the Western Mail, the national Welsh newspaper, and working for their agricultural supplement. So I've always loved farming. Farming in the UK and farming in New Zealand, there's crossover. There's a lot of differences, but there's a lot of crossover. But what I've always seen has been the ability of both to create an incredible range of ingredients, and that's where the foodie bit kicks in. Whether I'm cooking for myself or now working in the hospitality industry and working directly with chefs and our ability to produce product which is genuinely world class, and that excites me. What
defines a foodie, Huw?
What defines a foodie?
And just for point of clarification, I'm the opposite of a foodie. I don't know what the opposite of a foodie, what that word is. And yet I love food, but I can't cook. I appreciate food, but when I see foodies in action, it's really interesting to watch.
Yeah.
The passion.
I don't think the cooking bit is completely relevant. I mean, I do enjoy cooking, but that's not the relevant bit because you can cook badly.
Yep.
I think a foodie is someone who just appreciates what's on the plate in front of them, and I'm sure you do that. I don't think that Range Rover skills.
Yeah, but I think foodies appreciate where it's come from. They get really interested in the story and all that sort of stuff.
I hope so. Yeah, I would hope that's the case, certainly. But you're at least interested in the ingredients. What always used to be the case in the UK, and then they've lost it, but they've now got it back, is the provenance of those ingredients, certainly. And the story, I don't like the word story, but the authenticity of what's on your plate. It's something that we talk about a lot now with our chefs, is what is going to come out of their kitchen is going to be spectacular. But to me, for a rounded dining experience, it's the understanding of perhaps what those ingredients are. Some of them might be new to you, but where they're from and all of those sorts of things. So we're at a level now where we've got front of house staff who are telling our story at tableside. And I think that's fucking so exciting.
Yep.
Because that's, I use the words a rounded dining experience. It
Yep.
sounds very grand. But if you've gone away and you've eaten something not only that tastes spectacular, but you've maybe got a sort of an understanding of where it's come from, and most particularly how potentially it's different to something you've eaten before, then you go away with an experience that's different to just rocking in, I'll have steak.
Yep.
Don't know what the steak is.
Eat it.
Eat the steak.
Go.
Yeah, that was nice. Walk out the door.
Yep.
So hopefully there's an ability, and maybe this is where the foodie bit kicks in, to be excited by the entire dining experience.
Yep.
And maybe that's what's in your glass as well.
Yep.
That's part of it.
Yep, and because it's interesting at the end there, you're starting to describe, I think, that this excitement and the interest of where it comes from and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Huw, so your business at the moment is called?
So, the business is the Feel Good Meat Company. The brand is Heritage Beef.
Yep.
Yep, that's the name. We're still fairly fresh out the blocks. We launched this last year on a very small scale. I'd still describe us as being very small, but there's plans to expand steadily as the numbers increase. We started small and just sort of put this product in front of a number of chefs and sort of refined it, took their feedback, looked at sort of how we cut, how we age, all of those sorts of things. And it's progressively grown from there. Yeah.
Because what's interesting, why I'm interested in talking to you, Huw, is this foodie thing. And so I was involved with First Light Foods in the early days as a director and as a supplier. That was predominantly venison. Then it's got into beef.
Yep.
But it's all export.
Yep.
And I get frustrated with, so the farming industry, I'll go back. When I was farming, I used to have the 4th or 5th year vets come out to the farm, and I have them every year around September. And these were the large animal who are interested in sheep and beef farms. And I'd say to them, I'd ask them a question, I said, so what industry are you coming to work in? And they said, we're working in the farming industry. And I said, no, you're working in the food industry. Right, because that's the industry. And they go, and I said, you are here to help me produce food for, and to try and I said, and we need to be able to do that, obviously as economically as possible, but we need to be able to care for the animals well, and we need to be proactive. So I want vets not to fix sick animals, but it's around pasture production, and planning systems which are healthy. And every year they'll go, oh, farming. I go, no, part of the food industry. And my frustration is that just not enough farmers are really into food. And that's a generalisation, but it's something so that's why I was really interested in what you're doing. You are marketing New Zealand beef to New Zealanders.
I am. I think, with due respect, your attitude is probably a little bit more lateral than a lot of farmers. It is a unique industry in that they are completely detached from their end user. Not only that, in the vast majority of cases, they're completely detached from the companies who take their product and then take that product to market. I think it's the only industry where pretty much that would be the case. So you've got that level of detachment. And I think that's where there's been so many missed opportunities, because the chain is too long and the farmers who are producing the product in the first instance are detached from their marketplace, particularly here in New Zealand, where for a vast majority our marketplace is overseas, whether that's in Asia or Europe or wherever it might be. And that's a tricky one. So you're literally, as a farmer, throwing your product into whichever, from a red meat protein point of view, any of the sort of the big 4 or 5 guys, there's my product. I don't think they're being asked specifically. It is changing. But generally, over the last sort of couple of decades, there's my lambs. Take them, sell them.
Give me the best price.
Do your thing. Yeah, give me the best price. And there you go. Price. I'm a price taker.
Yep.
You'll tell me. But there's complete detachment from farm to plate.
Yep.
Wherever that plate might be.
Yep. And so that's going to be. It is happening. I see with the Omega Lamb, with Lumina down south. The farmers are very much involved in the production of that lamb. Well, I went to a Lumina tasting one day, and we were given these little hot grills, and we had 3 pieces of lamb, and we had to guess which was the Lumina lamb.
Right.
50% of them guessed it right.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was amazed at that. I would have thought it was 95%.
Yeah.
But they didn't know their own product, and their product was definitely different from the rest. And
different how?
Different taste, different taste, different. The Omega, you can feel it in your
mouthfeel,
in your mouth.
Yeah.
It's more succulent. Yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff. And what was interesting with us is that there was a bit of a fun thing. And I thought, you know what, this shouldn't be a fun thing. This should be an education thing. This should be, and they should be sitting there. And I thought if this was the wine industry, it wouldn't happen. And I often compare the two industries and going, when I was a kid, Hugh, we had maybe 2 wines in New Zealand, and then the wine came in boxes, and with plastic bags inside them and all this sort of carry on. And in a relatively short period of time, so maybe 50 years, we've gone from that to being quite sophisticated with our wine.
And you're way in front of Britain.
Yeah.
When I was cooking in pubs in the UK, and where are we now? Sort of early 90s, mid 90s. So as I say, we had all of these incredible and always almost exclusively local ingredients. It was Hereford beef. It was obviously a lot of game in the UK, venison from the local estates, pheasants, partridge. What was going on the plate was fucking incredible. But if you walked into the pub and there was no such thing as a wine list, it was like, do you want white or red?
Yep.
Do you want sweet, sweet whatever it was, sweet, medium or dry? And that was it.
Yeah.
Not so in those ways. But obviously, the New Zealand's had a wine industry, which probably has been one of the factors in developing that. But.
Yeah. So some years ago, there was a report done looking at New Zealand's economy, and one of the things that I remember from that, and it was one of the big companies that done it, and they said, look, to have an export industry that thrives, your domestic market's got to be sophisticated. So they talked about the yachting industry, and apparently if selling a yacht, the New Zealand yachting industry is very small but really discerning. They know the difference between a good yacht and a bad yacht, and they're very, very fussy. And they said, so exporting this stuff is simple because your domestic market's so fussy. I think our rugby is the same. The domestic market is pretty discerning and sometimes too discerning, and we can export the product. And my frustration, I think, with farming is that, and that's coming back to this foodie thing, which we'll get into, is that if the farmers were foodies, I think that would make a big difference to the story that we could tell and the product that we would develop, and get away from producing more for less, which has been the path we've been on for such a long time.
100%. Yep, it has been. I'll throw another word in there. I know it's one of your favourites, which is authenticity. The authenticity of the product is key, particularly when you're looking at the overseas markets. And I think that yachting analogy is great because, it's that depth of knowledge, but the authenticity of the product and the recognition of that product overseas as being something that is special and exceptional, but has a foundation of authenticity. The provenance, the story can't be challenged. And that's a massive one to me, because that's what separates you with your product from a mass market product, where you become a price taker as a farmer, where you become a price taker as a marketing company overseas. It's the one that's confounded me for years is the dairy industry here. It's not an industry I know well at all, but we've got this exceptional, extensive, grass-fed, authentic product. And I know there's some value adds now, and I think Fonterra go pretty well with those and all those sorts of things. But, when I see our product going into a mass market global dairy auction, and we're getting caned for it, with a product that is vastly superior to just about every other product in the marketplace, with an authentic story behind it. So I think our farmers are actually producing almost exclusively a really authentic product. It's that next stage where it goes wrong, because they're separated from where that product's going. They don't have that understanding. They're not being given enough opportunity to refine and to allow our marketplaces to separate a New Zealand product from a mass market product.
Yep. Hugh, tell me about heritage beef. Whereabouts are you? Where are you growing this product, and where do you sell the product?
So at the moment, pretty much everything is in Hawke's Bay. So we solely work with Angus at the moment. There is a couple of reasons for doing that. A, we've got numbers of cattle. B, some really good beef genetics, and that's always been a really important thing to me. The Anguses are still, Simmental guys are pretty good too, at promoting beef as being the primary point of breeding these cattle. Hereford boys, I'm sure there's some out there, I just haven't found them yet. But I've just got a concern with Herefords, and I'm very loyal. As I said, I was born.
That's your background.
Born and raised in Herefordshire. The bloody breed's a rare breed in the UK now. They've got, don't get me, they've gone wrong too. They've lost their way. But when you've got a beef breed that is almost exclusively now being bred to suit the purposes of the dairy industry,
yes,
that's okay, because you've got to make a living. But when I'm looking at sort of EBVs, and they're talking about short gestation and easy calving and all those sorts of things as the primary purpose of these bulls, and I look at some of the bulls and go, well, that's all very well, but you've done that by the arse end has disappeared.
Yep.
That's not quite where anyway, sorry. So the Angus is where we focus, and also because the Angus have recognition from the dining community. Angus beef is well recognised and appreciated. So the reason that
and Hugh, they had their ass kicked 20 years ago, 25 years ago, with all the new breeds coming in, and they weren't growing fast enough. They weren't this, they weren't that. They've been sitting on their laurels, and I think that they've really responded to that.
Yep. Probably you're right. I don't know enough of that history going back. So that's sort of
they became very, very unsexy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, very unsexy.
Well, I suppose the quality of the breed has shone through, and the quality of the beef, I would hope. I mean, there's plenty, and this is the quandary that farmers have, isn't it? It's like you're looking for a product that you've got to grow and get on the hook by 24, 30 months. Fastest way of getting there.
Yep.
Well, if we can start focusing on the quality of that product alongside it, and then the story of provenance behind it and all of those sorts of things, then we're starting to make some progress.
Yep.
And I think the Angus, it just suits the New Zealand farming industry. There's obviously thousands out in the hills. We tend to focus more on the studs. Again, there's reasons that we do that. The genetics are there, but also the body condition score of the cattle through their life tends to be far more even. You know,
Yep.
the girls out in the hills can look spectacular sometimes of the year. Other times of the year they can do it pretty hard. So from a quality of beef point of view, if you can find an animal that's had a really consistent body condition score across its life, that translates into the quality of the beef.
Right, so it hasn't been pinched. It hasn't, because Angus are also incredibly hardy.
That's right, and that's why they suit our hill country so well.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yep. And so so Angus, Hawke's Bay, studs. So they wouldn't have many steers though. The studs.
No, so we've not skirted around it. We just haven't got to it. Our point of difference. We've talked about point of difference. My three cornerstones are quality of product, a genuine story of provenance, and a point of difference. Our point of difference is we don't kill our animals until they're 7 or 8 years old. That's pretty unique here in New Zealand.
That is very unique.
Well, yes and no. So we're not looking to reinvent the wheel. If you go to northern Spain, central Italy, there is a style of beef, sort of Galiciana style of beef, San Sebastian, northern Spain, where exactly that happens. In fact, they'll eat animals that are 10, 12, 14 years old. You will find that beef now all across Europe. Some of the best Michelin-starred restaurants, steakhouses, across the Northern Hemisphere, certainly. There's guys doing it in Australia. We're just the first guys to do it here. We're not sort of reinventing the wheel. We've just sort of... I became aware of this style of beef. I've eaten this style of beef over there, and it was a point of difference that I felt would work here. And that's been the last year of sort of
Huw, how do you buy 7 or 8 year old cattle?
Well, as I say, so we're working with the studs. We're taking surplus females, basically.
Right.
Then they're coming back to our partner farm, an incredible property that we've partnered with in Hawke's Bay, regeneratively farmed. In fact, they're certified organic, but I would suggest that the regen side is, the organic is a benefit of being regen.
Yep.
And they go back there, and then we'll sit on them until we're ready for them. So 6 months, a year, they come to us in good order anyway.
So these are cows that haven't gotten calf?
Yep, pretty much. Yep, that tends to be the pool
that would normally go into the works when you made under hamburgers.
They'd be exported to America as cheap as chips mince.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
they're just a scrap.
It's just it was a missed opportunity. But it was my way of authentically as authentically as I could replicating what I'd seen in northern Spain, and then bringing that to the chefs here.
Huw, what? Okay, so how? I wasn't expecting this. How does the meat? I'm just trying. I've never eaten that beef before.
Right, I should have brought you some.
You should have. You should have. We could have it for breakfast. So, Huw, describe the difference of this female animal that's come through the system. As you say, she would have been looked after well all through that her life. Describe the difference in the beef when I eat it.
Age is flavour, have. It is literally that simple. Age is flavour. So you just get this development of taste and flavour profile, umami, this richness in your mouth, beef, true beefiness. This isn't a criticism of any of the beef that we produce here in New Zealand, or in systems that are basically replicated almost, globally. But you cannot develop the flavour at 2-3 years old that you can put onto a plate when an animal's 7, 8, 9 years old. Or as I say, if you go into northern Spain, you'll be eating animals that are 10, 12, 14 years old.
Right.
Yeah. But they've had that, that body condition score. All of those other factors are relevant as well. It's not just sort of it doesn't work with anything. Like a lot of people, when I first mention it to them here, go, "Oh, you're doing the old dairy cows," because in northern Spain, the animals that they're using, they'll milk them, but they're more of a you'd call them a multi-purpose. It's not that many generations ago they were pulling carts as well. It was a multi-purpose animal. They milked it, they ate it, they pulled the carts, it did all of those sorts of things. But it was cosseted, it was well looked after, it was winter housed, it was fed, it was always, I would say, the typical animal in northern Spain would be probably 200 or 300 kilos heavier than your typical New Zealand dairy cow. and body condition score wouldn't compare.
Right.
So you could probably look. I'm looking at doing something with some jerseys from some studs here, where again they sort of tick all of those boxes in terms of particularly body condition score. If you killed 100 dairy cows here, you'd probably get some spectacular beef out of it, but you'd get a lot that you would.
Yep, and I've heard it described that the Wagyu beef from Japan is essentially a black Jersey cow. That the similarities are very, very similar. Jersey's got a different colour, fat, but that's yeah. Okay, so this is your starting point, and Huw, where are you selling this stuff to?
So we had great grand plans when we launched. So this was going to be sort of selling boxes of the stuff to the public and all of those sorts of things. Within 6 months, it's completely turned on its head, and at this point in the company, we are exclusively restaurant supply. The support we've had has just been incredible. We're now in restaurants right through Hawke's Bay, at Craggy Range, Central Fire Station, Bistro, Marlow, the Mission Estate, up in Auckland, places like Lilius, Jervois Steakhouse, Fife Lane in Mount Maunganui. So again, a sort of a mix of, there's a couple of top enders in there. There's a thing called the World's 100 Best Steakhouses. There's only two in New Zealand that are on that list, which is Fife Lane and Jervois. We're in both of those. And then you come right through, obviously, from any carcass, you've got a fair bit of non-premium steak quality mince type of a product. Again, the Spanish value mince as being as important as any other cut on the animal. They honour it. And so we've tried to do the same. So we've made a fucking exceptional mince product that now goes out to some, again, really exceptionally cool burger bars and all of those sorts of things. And that's what I love. I work with guys in burger vans and pop-ups in bars in Wanganui's right through to two-headed restaurants. And that's fun. Yeah.
What gives you the confidence to walk in the door of some of those outfits and peddle your wares?
That's a good question. What gives you the confidence? I think, there's some confidence in the product, but at the early stages, it was almost turning it onto its head. And it was literally, I've got this, you tell me what you think. What we found straight away was, it actually gobsmacked me. There was a point in the development of this early on when I was terrified, because I had chefs lining up wanting to order it before we'd even killed the first animal.
Right.
So they were buying in, and this is where what we're talking around more generally. They were buying in completely to the story of provenance and the points of difference.
Right.
So there's three pillars. There's the story, the points of difference, and the quality of the product. They'd bought in and were buying product off the first two before they'd even tried it.
Without tasting it?
Without even tasting it.
Right.
Now, some of these guys, obviously, chef community is fairly transient and global. A lot of them had worked in Europe. A lot of them were aware of what it should be. And then we've managed to sort of replicate that to the level that, I don't think... No, we haven't. Every single chef that's tried it is I've had no one that hasn't reordered, put it that way. Yeah.
Well done, Huw.
Thank you.
Well done. That's what are you having fun?
Yeah. Most days. Yeah.
You would have had your ass kicked a few times where things haven't gone properly?
Yeah, because we're small, don't have enough control yet, and I'm not a control freak, but there's we're tiny. It's one of those bizarre things where it's actually going to get a little bit easier once we hit a little bit more scale, which is happening now. Because we've been small, most of what we've done has been going into these places, and we've been on their butcher's block or their chef's steak special, or whatever it might be. What that means is that that moves around. We'll have this cut here this week, this cut here another week. The guy that's used, we try and do a lot of it bone in. again, to be authentic. So a guy that's had a bone-in ribeye on for a couple of weeks might go, no, we'll run with something else next week, and might do a short rib or whatever it might be. What that can mean is that a lot of time on the phone, because you're almost sort of reselling with every batch of animals that come through. However, as we're scaling up, we've now got these guys who are wanting us on their menus. So scaling up is actually going to make things a lot easier, because I know this product is going to that guy every week, this quantity. It's almost like the jigsaw of putting the whole animal together. We want to make sure we've got the whole thing sold, obviously economically, but also it's part of that Spanish approach, that nose to tail. Yeah.
And Huw, you've used we over and over again.
Yeah, I know. That's a failing of mine. You pick me up on it quite regularly. My partner Kate does too. Yeah, no, it's me at the moment. I can't wait to the point that it isn't just me. But there's some really key people involved in it. I talk about partnerships. So there's a partner farm, Toro Station over on the outskirts of Havelock North, up the Tuki Valley. Willie there, the farm manager, absolutely integral part of what I have been able to do. And then the next stage has been the butchery. The butchery is something that we are looking to take a little bit more control of, possibly looking at relocating that to Taupo, so I can be a bit more hands-on and eyes-on. That's all outsourced at the moment. But it's allowed us to get to where we are now.
Yep.
But it's a platform now where we've tapped them out in terms of numbers. So for us to be able to scale up, I am going to need to take it a little bit more.
No, well, the we thing, I mean, partners are still, still involved. Huw, what's next on the horizon? Where are you looking at bringing other products into what you do?
Yep. Number one is scaling this beef up, as I say, giving us the opportunity to look at becoming menu items. And then with the mince, we're talking to a couple of guys who've got larger scale, top end sort of burger venues, multiple venues. That will allow us to scale the beef up. I've gone from we to us now. I'm still talking plurals. But the other part of the planning, which last year we had the lambs and we had the chef, so I just couldn't pull the bit in the middle together. Very hard to get processing space last year. But there's a lamb product that I would love to do this year, which again has got some points of difference. Again, European inspired, southern France, region of southern France called l'Aveyron, and l'agneau de l'Aveyron, the lamb of l'Aveyron, it's got global recognition, protection, whatever it's called, like champagne.
Yep.
Anyway, one of the core breeds that they utilise for that product is the Lacorne. And the Lacorne is here in New Zealand, not as a meat animal, but primarily as one of the foundation breeds of the New Zealand sheep milking industry. So I've found some really cool farms who are milking sheep. I hope they will be next year, because the sheep milking industry is hitting a little bit of a tough time at the moment. But they tick my boxes in terms of the provenance, the farms.
Yep.
That, we take chefs out to Toro Station now, and I would love to. The cornerstone will always be where the animals come from. So partner farms that tick all of those boxes, but then a product that's got some quality, but also some points of difference. Yeah.
Provenance is a word you've used, consistently through this conversation. It reminds me of Rod McDonald with his wine. And it's something, he talks about that being a collective intelligence member, that what he gained from that was having the confidence in himself to produce the wine in the vineyard, not in the vat, and saying that the wine should be able to express the soil. And this was on their transition to being organic, and then transitioning in time to being regenerative, which is a monstrous step.
Yeah.
And people are trying it, but it's grapes are grown in this artificial environment and trying to grow them in an environment which is more natural, which, they used to grow up trees and so forth. So it's just, but he said, the wine needs to be able to express the soil that it comes from. And he said, the chemicals just bugger all that up. When you've got so many chemicals in the ground, it's just the vine can't do that. And so provenance, I think, in the wine industry is just a really big deal. And it's lovely to hear you starting to use that term in beef because for us to be able to continue farming animals, and there's no guarantee that we will be able to, that's not a God-given right anymore, that we do something that is spectacular.
You nearly said authentic then, didn't you?
No, I could see you willing me to use that. But all of that.
Yeah.
All of that.
All right, so here's something I'll throw at you because you're absolutely right, and I think it's one of the things that separates our very best vineyards, winemakers. Absolutely, Rod is one of those. But I think provenance can, and this is New Zealand's opportunity. It can be bigger than that. Rod's got the opportunity to have that massively in-depth knowledge and understanding of the properties where he's growing his grapes, and most importantly, what's underneath the soil and all of those sorts of things. And provenance itself, to the best of my knowledge, it's a word of French origin that would almost directly relate to viticultural development of that industry over centuries. And for me, at a micro level, the provenance is the farms that we're sourcing the cattle from, and then specifically, our partner farm that we sow, as I mentioned, we've taken chefs to very proudly. And for them, provenance is me standing with Willie in a paddock and going, there they are, that's going to be what's in your chiller in 3-4 weeks' time. And for them, it's the ability to just completely visualise the product that they're receiving, the property it's coming from, and all of those sorts of things. The opportunity to me is New Zealand itself has provenance, irrespective of how it's farmed, irrespective of whether this is red meat proteins from Northland or Southland or anywhere in between. We're missing our ability to demonstrate the provenance of our product and to receive the benefits from provenance, which is exceptional in a global marketplace. That's our opportunity. That's where I see massive frustration in the farming community with their detachment from their end marketplace, because that's what's potentially changing, is the end marketplace, irrespective of whether that's a diner in a nice restaurant in New Zealand or whether they're in Sydney, Singapore or somewhere in Europe. Those diners or those customers are increasingly wanting to know, where's this product come from? How is it produced?
Yeah.
Why is it different? Why is it better? And we've got all of the platform for us to demonstrate to that to them is here. It's here now.
Yep.
But we're not doing it.
Yep. Interesting point. Hugh, we're going to go for a walk after this around our little
Around the ranch.
little ranch here, all of 8 hectares, and I'm really looking forward to that, to show you the progress with the regen system, which is now 6 years old. We killed our first cattle beast off this property 2 years ago, and it was a steer. It was a little bit big, so the butcher said it was 340 kilos, and he's bit big to get he would have liked it a bit lighter, but what we notice with that beef, it's the mince. We notice the difference more than anything else. Like the steaks and so forth, they're good.
Yeah.
They're good.
Yeah.
But the animal was a bit big. But the mince, the taste of it, it is so moist, the taste of it is just off the charts.
Yeah.
And Kate will say when she's cooking it that she puts less in the mince to give it flavour because the flavour's already there.
100%. Yeah.
And it was interesting when we had a butcher come to do it, and there's this old guy, and that's all he does is just slaughter the animals on the farm and then takes it to the butcher.
Uh-huh.
When he came, it was October, and he said, "What are all these flowers in the paddock? What are all these flowers?" Because October, the regen pastures, there's a dozen different.
Yeah.
And he went, "Oh, you're regen." He knew straight away.
Okay.
And he went, "Oh, you're regen, got it." And he said, "Oh, well, come and have a look at this." So when we were then cutting up the animal, and he said, "Now look, see where the fat lays down," and he was showing me the difference.
Yeah.
And he was very aware that the fat laid down differently, and and it was lovely to see his enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And knew that the animal would be different.
Yeah.
Because of the pastures that it was off.
There you go. And there is already in Australia a beef brand that's regen farmed.
Right. Yeah.
That's interesting. It's interesting if you're a diner in a restaurant, and in the same way that your front of house staff are talking to you about the wines and talking provenance, and talking which one will suit, and what's your palate, which all of those sorts of things. That's happening. That's happening now. It's always been happening, but it's a niche of the market. But people want to know what their food is, and people are excited by things that are different. And we're probably riding that wave a little bit because what we're doing is still different here in New Zealand. But we're getting left behind globally because we're not promoting who we are and what we do.
Yep. Look, I've got it's a wee hobby horse of mine at the moment, and I recently interviewed Dr. Abby Thompson about what she's doing with with food production, which is different again, but it's there. And then I'm interviewing Andy Ramsden a wee while, he's in the lamb and wool industry. And his whole thing is very much down this track, is going, we have got he talks about, I won't get ahead of myself, but he's very much going, this is different. This thing here is different. It's different than anything else in the world. And we need to ring fence it and show all the bits that are different, whether it's the wool or the lamb, to anything else in the world. This is us. This is what we do.
100%.
And he's going right back to the genetics and the whole piece. Yeah, it's fascinating. And he doesn't want to be the biggest or any of that. Just going, this is the thing that we do really well. And he's also got on now to the health benefits of lamb and going down that track. So it's becoming less and less about the calories and just keeping us alive, but actually going down, because at the end of the day, a bit like what you're doing, Huw, you're going after that really discerning high-end market, aren't you?
Yeah, we are. I think there's inevitably, by the nature of it, we are. Yeah. And
yet you talked about hamburgers as well.
Yeah. Don't knock a hamburger half. It's a discerning marketplace. And again, I touched on it. You've touched on it as well. I think we make this incredible mince where we're only using sort of premium cuts that go in it. It's effectively a trim-free mince, and that's inspired by this Spanish approach to mince as not being the leftovers. That it's to be honoured and respected in its own right. And I'd agree with you that taste profile almost comes through more in the mince than some of the other cuts. So yeah. I mean, I suppose we're working with a discerning burger enthusiast. It's a level above the sort of the fast food.
Yep.
You can go into Michelin-starred restaurants in Europe, and there's a burger on the menu. It's really only a sort of southern hemisphere perception that it's sort of cheap shit that after you've had a few beers on the way home you pull into the Golden Arches.
Yep. And it's interesting, the food carts, Huw, they've often surprised me of just how wickedly good some of that food is. And, I think these guys are absolutely passionate about producing.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's something that's taken off, isn't it? The last 10, 20 years, the food truck concept. And within every one, there is a little massive enthusiast. And those are the sort of people that we try and find.
Yeah.
I mean, I sort of glibly say we just like doing cool things with cool people. But when you see the enthusiasm, it's just, that's the, when you said you're having fun, that's the fun bit, is working with these guys who just love what they do.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys are the smaller guys, because you get up into the big places, like we work with the Hilton and all those sorts of guys, but there's a degree of corporatization.
Yep.
When you can get that chef in the kitchen and over his pans and over his grills, then the real guys there and the passion comes out.
Yep. It's interesting. I've never had the conversation about Spain, food, beef, that, and I'm just reflecting that, this, what you've spotted there, is really unique. So what are you good at? What's your point of difference as an individual?
What am I good at? I guess it's just relationships. It's relationships. I mean, I'm proud of what I've got. I think I'd struggle to be as effective if I was trying to build relationships with a product that was lower quality. So I go in with some. You used the word confidence earlier on. I go in with some confidence that what I've got, particularly now with the feedback that we've had from some of these chefs about how exceptional the product is. But yeah, no, I mean, it doesn't matter what you're selling. You can't do it without forming a relationship.
Cool. So I think that's correct. So I was just thinking, because I was thinking, I had no idea what the answer was going to be then.
Right.
Okay. So relationship. So you said relationship and then you downplayed it, so there was a bit of Kiwi in you. That's good. So relationships, what's the ingredients of being good at relationships?
Can I say authenticity again?
No, you can't say that. Okay, yep, cool. So don't just use the word. What does that mean?
Well, relationships two ways, aren't they? I mean, it's two people, minimum two people involved in a relationship, and because I started from a point of having a product that I knew the vast majority of the chefs that I would be approaching hadn't seen before. My approach was, I want your feedback on this. So it's almost the sort of walk in the door and I'm asking for a relationship. It's not like I want you to buy this from me. So I want you to tell me what you think. And that was important, not just in terms of building those relationships, but that was important for me in terms of refining what my product was going to look like. As I touched on earlier on, how we'd cut it, how we'd age it, and do all those sorts of things.
Yep. So you're talking about a relationship that endures over time. You're not talking about, because you haven't mentioned sales once.
No.
But you're a salesman.
Yeah, proudly. Yeah, I think so. But it's relationship based. Again, this is my guess. I only know sort of agriculture industry more broadly, but I don't think it would matter what industry you're in, without the ability to form. And I think that would go right through to telesales, probably almost more specifically within telesales, when you might have a guy on the phone for 2 minutes.
Yep.
If you haven't formed some form of the seed of a relationship within 10, 20 seconds, he's hung up, he's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I was at the field days this year in Manawatu, and there was a car salesman there. I went over and had a look at this Chinese electric car.
Right.
And I can't remember what they're called. Anyway, this salesman comes out and starts chatting to me. Mm-hmm. And starts chatting to me about who are you and so forth, and you're interested in buying a car? I said, not really. And he went, okay. And so he didn't walk away. He carried on talking to me, and then he started talking about why he's on the stand with this Chinese car, and told me about why he's so passionate about this car, and that he was out of sales and he's come back in because he's so enthused by this thing. And that sounded actually moderately authentic.
God, there it is.
And so here I am recalling that conversation. I never looked at the car, but now when I see them driving past, I go, it's another one of those Chinese cars. It's another one of those cars. Because of what he did, and he might create a sale down the track, 3 or 4 years down the track, because of what he did then.
Or he might turn up at the Range Rover dealership with their new electric fleet in 3-4 years.
Yep. So it was really interesting that he, and this is when he has to talk to hundreds of people at a bloody, but he could still be bothered coming over and forming a very, very short, relationship with me, and so interesting. So you talk about authenticity. But I'm going, and what else? Because I'm going to guess you're not great at detail.
That'd be probably a fair criticism. Yeah.
Yep. It's not a criticism, because I'm looking at a mirror here, looking at you across it, right?
Yeah.
So then, and you're having to deliver a high-end product.
Yes.
Consistently.
Yeah. On
time and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I'd imagine you cock that up sometimes.
Not that bit.
Not
that bit.
Right.
No, the biggest learning for me is in the last 12 months has been to try to learn how to be a businessman.
Right.
I'm nowhere near it.
Right.
But nowhere near it enough, and hopefully smart enough to realise there's bits of this that you find people who've got those skill sets.
Yep.
So. There's a fantastic outfit in Taupo, and all of the financial side, I just push it off to them now.
Yep.
And a bunch of ladies kick my ass all over the place when I first, and they're looking at stuff and go, well, you haven't invoiced this bloke. You sent us stuff a month ago. You haven't invoiced him yet.
Right.
And I've we've put 20 kilos of beautiful ribeye on the bone into some spectacular restaurant. That's it. That was in the early days. That was me done. The actual invoicing, getting paid for it, and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So that's my learning, but it's not, as you very quickly identified, that's not my strength by any means. But again, for me, this is part of getting bigger. If I can get, as I get bigger, and more of that can be slightly pushed sideways to allow me to concentrate more on the bits that I'm good at. And some more of the blue sky thinking, and I'd love to get more involved. We work with stock agents at the moment to find the cattle. I want to get more involved in developing relationships with the farmers that we're finding the cattle from, actually sourcing my own cattle, all of those sorts of things.
Huw, has there what's been your biggest pushback on this? What's been the biggest, we don't like this, what you're doing?
I haven't had one. I don't think. I'm trying to make sure that I'm being honest to myself. No. There you go. So there has been one, and it was a restaurant, and fantastic chef, clientele, very, very traditional.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still working with them. We're just refining which cut is going to suit their client base. I'm trying to remember what we put in there. So we put picanha in there. So picanha is it's the cap of the rump. It's a spectacular piece of meat.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't work for that client base. That was just pushing them a little bit too far.
Right.
So for them, it might be a fillet steak.
And because it was too different.
A little bit too different, yeah. The flavour profile was just so different to what they used before. And probably the cut as well. The cut was not a sort of a conventionally recognised cut for a conventional New Zealand diner. And they weren't a marketplace that wanted to push the boundaries, wanted to experiment. They had their safe space. We weren't quite playing in that safe space for them.
Yep.
But chef fucking loves it. So
Yep.
it's like, right, we're just going to see if we can find
Yep.
a different cut.
And what about the cuisine magazines or anything? Have they noticed you yet?
No.
Or too soon?
No, I've deliberately sort of tried to fly under the radar. I'm tiny. We're going to be getting substantially bigger, hopefully within the next 2-3 months. Things, everything's pretty much in place now to allow us to scale up. But to me, the first year was about getting it right, refining it, starting to establish what it is as a brand, and then all of that can come. I think it was too early then.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is a scoop. This is. I've got a scoop here, Huw. That I'm the first person to be talking to you.
Well, you are.
Hey?
Do you count as media?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Huw, look, I've really enjoyed this. What goes round in my mind is just, if we could have hundreds or thousands of people, and I'm starting to see signs of it out there of more and more foodies. Janine Rickards is doing a wicked job down in Wairarapa with their wine and her
Yep.
food. I'm seeing little hotspots and people actually getting interested in this, and people experimenting with more and more on a wider range of food. And the health thing is becoming more and more important. It's Kate and I eat less and less meat, but when we do, we're really discerning with what we eat. And so I see there is a definite momentum building.
Lots of micro stuff,
Yeah.
and that's great and a lot of that micro stuff, as we touched on earlier on, is going to be sort of for that the more discerning in the marketplace. We've got to start doing the macro stuff as a country as well. We've got to start building that connection between not even farmer and end marketplace, because the end marketplace can be so remote. But we are a country of exporters. For primary industries, that's always going to be a part of who we are. We've got to start building the brand New Zealand and representing that overseas as a premium brand. And so rather than looking at a micro level and looking at all of us who are sort of pretty much exclusively in the domestic marketplace, in that discerning marketplace, why don't we start attacking the discerning marketplace in China with product?
Yeah.
Why don't we start attacking the discerning marketplace in all of these export markets? European Union, the last government's incredible feat to go off and, a marketplace of 4.5 million that we've given them, or 5.5 million here, and they've given us marketplace access to 450 million there.
Yeah.
Incredible, Labour Party, farmers' friends. But capitalise on it, and go to that marketplace not with what is perceived as being the leg of New Zealand lamb that's always going to be in the freezer department in a British supermarket and substantially cheaper than a British farm lamb. Let's sell less for more.
Which comes back to this confidence, Huw, because I applaud you for your confidence. It hasn't been cocky, but there's been I think you've had a personal belief base that makes it really compelling, and I think people can sense that when people really believe in what they're doing. And I've seen, so I think I wonder if we have that understanding of our product. And I know First Light have been very, very good at it when they've gone offshore and they've gone, what we're doing is unique and it's different and it's special, and we can produce this in a sustainable way and all that sort of stuff, and the animals are well cared for and all that sort of stuff.
There's a number of them. Coastal Spring Lamb down the road here, Caesar Redmayne, Richard Redmayne, Atkins Ranch, aware of them. There's a lamb product that is exclusively for export.
Yep. And they've been going, Atkins Ranch would have been going for 40 years.
Probably, yeah.
And going into really tough markets.
Going into a niche market. I mean, I don't follow them super closely, but their route to market into America was going into the Whole Foods supermarket chain with a product that had quality, a story of provenance and authenticity, and some points of difference. Into a marketplace that was looking for them, and into a marketplace that was prepared to pay a premium for them. And that's doing it right. So there's all of us at a micro level. I'm certainly not accusing some of those guys of being at a micro level now. I think, they're all killing probably in excess of 100,000 lambs, those guys. I'm probably got the sort of the big guys in the gun more. And they're doing stuff. Silver Fern Farms are doing their net zero carbon beef product. I don't know how that's going, but fucking what a great idea.
Yep.
There's a point of difference.
Yep.
Ansco, again, in my space, have got Greenstone Creek. So as beef comes through their lines down south, only through one plant and only low numbers, if they see something exceptional, they're pulling that out. That's going into the restaurant trade as a premium product. So it's there, but I know it's slightly off topic now, but it's always confounded me. We've got beef and lamb, you've got dairy NZ, you've got various horticulture. Get them all combined. Start. This is about brand New Zealand, and we should be so excited by the potential for the product we've got. But it's actually at a level now where it's super scary. There was a great article in Farmers Weekly last week, Alan Emerson, talking about all of the sort of things that we're talking about what the customers in our export markets are increasingly looking for. Read the article, fantastic. Read the comments, holy fuck! It was just like I'm not.
Who are the comments from?
From the farmers, but it was just demonstrative of the disconnect. There's your customers saying what they want, and they're prepared to pay a premium for it, and you've got only a tiny but vocal percentage of the producers going, it's all fucking woke nonsense. They don't know what they want. They'll have what we give them. And so, but that you can't. I'm not. It's because they are disconnected. It's further up the chain that it's not gone wrong, but that we've missed the opportunities.
Huw, when I was director of First Light, I was a farmer director, or producer director of First Light in the early days. And I remember we were in Turangi on a farm there, and this was to do with venison. And we were supplying niche, and it was spread across the year. Normally, venison sales are just in one part of the year for the general market.
Yep.
So this was, and we had involved some European people advising us, and some of these were, was it PETA, the animal rights people, and we we had them advising us because we thought if we can't please them, we don't have a long-term market.
No,
right? So we actually had them involved at the early stage advising us. And they came back and said, we don't want your young stags to have the velvet taken off. Now, you take the velvet off when it's soft and you had a market for Korea selling that there. We want that velvet stayed on so it goes hard, so it's a natural product. And we're like, oh, deep breath. Okay, so that makes it really tricky to farm those animals in a farming thing because now you've got these young stags with pointy little antlers and they're hard. And, okay, so we had to work through that, and we talked to some of the top farmers in the group, and they went, yeah, well, we could do this and we could do that. And we still had to take that venison, that antler off before we went to the works. Yep. We'd take it off hard. Okay, and so we worked through all of that, and we went, yep, we can do that. And so then we took it out to the farmer groups. And I remember there was a guy there, and he said, oh, I don't want to do that. And I remember looking at him, looking at the guys from the management on First Light, and I was sort of going, and so I was a farmer, so I could say it. And I said, mate, you need to realise that nobody gives a fuck whether you want to do it or not. And he was like, huh? I said, this is a top-end market that we're going to supply to, and we have got to work out how to do this. So the conversation today is whether you want to do it or not is actually not the conversation. And this guy was horrified. And I just thought he needed to understand that we're here to serve the market, you know. Anyway, you know, didn't make many friends that day, but it was still the right thing to say.
Because it was, yeah,
you know,
it was, yeah.
Of just going, mate, you've get with the program here. We're not going to do what everybody else does. We're going to do something different. And as far as I know, they're still supplying that market, and you know, over a 10-year period, it would, you know, the farmers would have been better off financially.
And that's what it is. I mean, that's what you don't need to get too carried away. Farmers are never going to be connected to their end user. That's the nature of our industry, or very rarely. You know, at a micro level like we are, it's achievable, but with this macro level and this export level, it's not. It's just about dollars.
Yep.
It's just dollars, you know. So it's going, not being in a global dairy auction and getting your ass kicked when it's bad and getting paid the same for your stuff as what milk powder from shitty markets is getting.
And Huw, a commodity spike will always beat a niche market. You know, it's just and that's just the nature of it. And if you're in there for the long run, you need to know that. Yeah. Huw, anything we've missed out, or anything else you want to discuss this morning?
I think we're just getting going on the sort of the global opportunities. I just hope that I'm in no way have I come across as critical of the farmers. The yes is a niche, that sort of vocal niche that you see on Alan Emerson's article last week, or excuse me, the one that always jumped out to me was the country calendar last year or year before, when Lake Howe Station, Jeff and Justine Ross, and classical music in the shearing shed, and mattresses at the bottom of the chutes and all the rest of it, and the vitriol that came.
The mattresses, by the way, aren't unique. They've been in wool sheds for a long time. They've just been made out of jute. Yeah.
But the vitriol, they all seem to miss the fact that amongst that half an hour, the 5 minutes went to the fashion designer, who was paying them an exceptional premium for that wool,
and they were twice carbon positive.
Incredible story. But the vitriol in the comments that came off the back of that. But anyway, there's always a vocal and gobby minority. The vast majority of New Zealand farmers are fucking exceptional. The product that they create is fucking exceptional. They're not getting paid enough for that product. And I don't want to ever come across as sort of being down on farmers.
I don't think that's come across, Huw. I think from my perspective, you know, I have been down on farmers from time to time, and from frustration, but certainly not.
It's frustration.
And the tall poppy thing is not confined just to farming. It is across many industries. And it's something I love with Collective Intelligence, is we absolutely celebrate the tall poppies. And I talked before that, you know, the thing with tall poppies is that they often are the ones that can withstand the pain for the longest. And that's why they've got to where they get to. And not always, but so often the tall poppies are the ones that can just endure so much pain. And still hold the course because they believe in what they're doing. And that's what you've exuded today, Huw, is this.
Thank you, mate.
Is this absolute belief in what you're doing. I love it, you know, and I'm still written down here 7 or 8 year old Angus cows. I'm going, okay, is that a niche? That's wicked. And
well, we want to push it. We went with Angus, so it was safe. We went with 7 or 8 year olds, so it was, well, relatively safe. I'd love to start killing 10, 12, 14 year olds and start playing with those.
So Huw, good luck. Good luck for the future. Thank you for doing what you're doing. I think we need more of this, and you know, this is turning a waste product into a niche product is wonderful. And continue to have fun. I'm really interested to see what other relationships you build around New Zealand and maybe beyond. And I know you've got the support from Taupo.
Yeah, very lucky.
And, good luck with that as well. That's all new.
Yeah.
And so let's go for a walk around this little farm and have a chat about what's going on there. And, just good luck, Huw. I'm really excited by what you're doing. And it's really good for Welshman doing something good for New Zealand. Wow.
Giving it back. Thank you, Av. Much appreciated. No, loved it. Great fun.